This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and today we are watching me make a bracelet from the Blindsided Creations collection. It was Blindsided Creations number 5, which is pattern number 103915 on BraceletBook. And I have to say, going into this, I was I was not looking forward to it. I really honestly um, this one was a doozy. But the whole Blindsided Creations is meant to challenge me as a bracelet maker, and I accept that that's what it is. So this was submitted by MinuteCraft, and I showed the whole video last week of how I actually kind of altered the pattern from its original. So like this whole top part is more solid, and I have to say I'm really glad I started it out the way I did. Like that was really a benefit to this whole thing. And like I said, I was anxious about this, right? So going into this, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the actual um, leaving gaps in the bracelet itself. But I have to say, now that it's done, it's not difficult. It's actually, if you compare the amount of time spent in this video compared to other bracelets I made, it went really quick. So at the end of the day, it's not that bad. It's just different. And sometimes different is just, daunting. That said, it still doesn't change my main complaint about this kind of bracelet, and that is I have it in my hands. Um, it's easier to, these little bits here are easier to get snagged on stuff. If you're swinging around and I don't know, playing foosball or whatever, it's just easier to catch on stuff. Um, does that make it bad? Not terribly. It's not going to get caught every time you do stuff or whatever. It's just a thing. And um I guess I don't know. I mean, you could play around like there's like three little stripes on either side. So you could actually like turn those into braids and stuff if you wanted to. It would change the length. You'd have to recalculate out how many knots you needed to do that. But overall it's not bad. It's different. If you want to try your luck at doing something different, this is it. I can show you though, we're getting up to where it splits. Um, I'll show you what I used for my technique to um, try and make it easy for me because obviously normally you have all your strings are like this, like grouped in a bunch. Um, when you start splitting it into smaller segments, because you end up with like six small segments, um, you'll see kind of how I approached it in order to try to um, just make it easier on myself, honestly. That's, again, most of what I do is about trying to just take this art and make it simple, And I don't know. I mean, does everybody do that? I don't know if everybody does that. If you aren't doing that, you should try it. Honestly. If if while you're working on things, if you can find a method that just helps you complete a row a little bit faster, imagine how much faster the whole thing will be done because every row will be the same, right? So it's these little nuancy things that can make whatever the difference is. So yeah. And that's I've been kind of living that philosophy for a really kind of long time now. Okay, so yeah, here it's split into just like two pieces at first, and then kind of comes down and rearranges everything. I didn't want to just stay to that right-handed side and continue the smaller ones down without having already gotten the left side together as well. So that way the whole bracelet can shift up as once. Also makes it easier when you're like reviewing the pattern on your screen. You can stay, focused on the one area at a time. That was that was my methodology there. Plus making sure that like everything is coming out nice and even and you know, trying to make sure I'm doing the same stuff on both parts. Like there, like right. I noticed that bringing the blue comes down an extra one. Oh yeah, the purple one's supposed to do that. So I added that knot. So it really paid out, right? That's a win in my books. Now is where it splits into the little tiny ones. So what I did was because I typically do the knots that go to the right, um, because I wanted to do those, I started on the right hand side. So that way I could do the 5 knots down, set that aside, go to the next one, do the 5 knots down, set it aside. And I honestly believe this was a very useful kind of method. It really kind of worked out for me. So, yeah, if I was to do this again, that's exactly the method I would go with again. Um, I did have to kind of like really make sure about the knots because like I think some are like 4 and the others are 5 or something like that, just to get the right angle and stuff down. And I had to like stop and kind of make sure I was on point. But I think that's kind of true with whatever you're making, right? You have to make sure that you're following the pattern precisely if you want it to turn out right. But yeah, you see, I just kind of went straight across with them. And each one of these is just a right knot. Just the string comes across and then go back to the other one and do another right knot. And yeah, I could kind of goes back and forth, but I thought that that might change the way it looked, and I really kind of wanted to keep it as even and as unified as possible. So every single one of those is a knot going to the right. So yeah. Again, this is not necessarily my forte. This is I came into this going, okay, I'll try it. Why not? And yeah, it turned out fine. So, for somebody who's not done this before, well, I say that. I did this before. I put like a little spot where it went off to the right and this one went off to the left and then went back again. So there was like this weird over under thing, and then there was like a gap in the middle, and their bead went into that gap into the middle. And it went to a very good friend of mine, and I don't know if he wore it till it died or what happened. I do know that because I put the bead onto cotton, it didn't last very long, and he still loved the whole gap thing and called it like a gateway or something weird. Um, but the bead didn't last on there because it was on cotton. So now if I do beads, you can watch one of my old videos. I actually show I put it on. Always forget the word for it. The alternative word is catgut, but swine, something. I don't know what it's called. Um, but yeah, that stuff really lasts a lot longer. So yeah, that's an alternative. Run that in between the knots, and then you can put a bead on it, and it'll last much, much, much longer. So you can see in the middle there, there's also a little like a buttonhole gap, which is sort of cool. Like that, that's less likely to get kind of caught on anything. It's not as long as those other ones. Um, Again, I'm not really huge on putting little holes in the bracelet. I'm not sure. Like if you look at like the bracelet I have on, like I can't imagine it being any prettier with little holes in it. Just not a thing. But I mean, there might be. I could see that like maybe there could be certain patterns that could be fun like that, or maybe if you did a bag that had holes, little tiny little holes like that, because you don't want things falling out. But if it's small enough, it could let lint and dirt come out, and that might be kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. I could see that though. I could see like doing a whole bag and just having like little spots in it. Again, you'd want the holes to be small enough that like whatever the smallest thing that you carry in your bag couldn't fall out of it. That's why you always see like the grocery ones, right? That are like they'll have like the big holes, like it's like a knit or a crochet or something. Um, and they've got the big ones or whatever, but you're only putting fruit in it, so you really don't need. It doesn't matter that, and you know, nothing's gonna fall out of that. And then see again, I started on the right hand side, and I do all the little single knots and just go straight across it. And the strings keep alternating because, you know, once you get done going to the right, that's off to the right. Then you take the one on the left and bring it to the right, and it just keeps alternating the two strings. Um, Comes out really good. That was I was pleased. So yeah, this might not be the for everybody though. Honestly, it's I don't know. Well, it's again, it's not difficult. Honestly, this is other than the zigzags and stuff in here, I would say this is almost beginner level. Like if the rest of it was just candy stripes or whatever, and then you put these things in, it would be beginner level. But the zigzags kind of bring it to the intermediate. So yeah. Well, rather than waiting to the end, let's thank all of my Patreon supporters who make this stuff possible. Without them, I wouldn't have all these tutorials and showing you guys all this crazy stuff. So thank you guys so much for that. And if you guys haven't already, hit like and subscribe to the video or subscribe to the channel, like the video. Um, Super greatly appreciated. So yeah, now comes the whole, the little bit of the pattern before the two sides join together. Mind you, watch, you'll see I just do a little bit of that on the left, and then I match the same thing to make sure I've got it going on the right. Um, and that really kind of worked out. It's, you know, I can see that things are lining up evenly, that it's going to join properly. If I need to tighten the knots a little tighter or loosen them a little bit to get things to line up, it kind of gives you that ability. If you do too much on one side, I feel like you could run into some trouble. That's all. And it's kind of cute. It's like a little braid right there, right? The way that the blue goes under and the way that the strings are kind of going directionally there. It's that's a little bit like a braid, honestly. And then we're back to the whole little green diamonds, which there's only like what, one, two, three, four of them. So there's already one down, three to go. Um, and again, this part here is really super easy. And again, it gives something solid at the ends, which is nice. You know, the original pattern really just breaks up like and keeps doing that again and again and again. And I kind of like the fact that I changed that and kept it interesting, you know. And I kind of the colors were sort of this way in the pattern itself, and I was like, I could do something like that. I think the green I used is a fluorescent, and then the purple might actually be as well. But yeah. And this part here is kind of simple. It just kind of keeps the green to the middle and comes in with these stripes, which I thought was sort of fun. So yeah, if you guys have questions, leave it in the comments. I do try to respond to everybody. And then yeah, you guys have ideas. If you want to submit stuff for the Blindsided Creations, you can just all I need is the pattern number and the number of strings, because when I go into these, I like to have the what I'm going to work on, like the template thing already in place. So that's why I need to know the number of strings in the project. And then yeah, I can give you guys a shout out as well. So yeah, this is nearing the end. And so yeah, I certainly hope that you guys liked the video. You're obviously here this long. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Um, I can't think of too much more to say, honestly. I do honestly hope you guys have had fun with this. And then at the very end, I show you what it looks like. And then, yeah. So there you have it. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, don't get your strings in a bunch.